Welcome to Once Upon English.
What if the greatest love story in history wasn't about happiness, but destruction? What if one man's passion for a queen could burn down empires, destroy legions, and change the fate of two great nations forever? This is not a simple romance. This is Antony and Cleopatra, the love that rewrote history. Antony and Cleopatra, a love that shaped empires. In the annals of history, few love stories have carried the weight of empires and the fate of nations as profoundly as that of Mark Antony and Cleopatra VII. Their love was not simply a private passion, it was a force that influenced the course of Rome and Egypt, altering the destiny of the ancient world. Cleopatra, the last queen of the Ptolemaic dynasty, was as much a strategist as she was a symbol of beauty and intellect. Fluent in many languages and skilled in diplomacy, she ruled a kingdom that stood at the crossroads of culture and power. Mark Antony, a celebrated Roman general and loyal ally of Julius Caesar, was known for his military brilliance, charisma, and a will that could both charm and command. When these two figures met, the collision of their personalities and ambitions was explosive. It was a relationship of love and politics, tenderness and war, marked by both triumph and tragedy. Together, they sought not only to unite their hearts, but also to carve out a new world order, a dream that would defy the might of Rome and the ambitions of Octavian, the future Emperor Augustus. This narrative will dive deep into their story, spanning glittering courts, legendary banquets, fierce battles, and whispered conspiracies. It is a tale of love that dared to challenge the greatest empire of the time, and of two souls who, in their final moments, chose love over surrender. Cleopatra's Rise and the World She Ruled. Before Cleopatra met Antony, she had already become one of history's most remarkable rulers. Born in 69 BCE into the Ptolemaic dynasty, she inherited a throne fraught with intrigue, betrayal, and rivalry. The Ptolemies, descendants of one of Alexander the Great's generals, had ruled Egypt for centuries, blending Greek traditions with the ancient culture of the Nile. Cleopatra, however, was unlike any ruler who came before her. From an early age, she displayed a sharp intellect and a natural gift for persuasion. She was the first Ptolemaic monarch to learn the Egyptian language, embracing the customs of the people she ruled rather than hiding behind Greek superiority. By the time she ascended the throne at just 18, she faced challenges from both within and beyond her kingdom. Her own brother, Ptolemy XIII, was both co-ruler and rival, manipulated by advisors who sought to sideline Cleopatra's influence. Cleopatra's early reign was a battle for survival. Forced into exile when her brother's supporters drove her out of Alexandria, she gathered allies and an army. Her ambition and cunning brought her to the fateful meeting with Julius Caesar, which would not only restore her throne, but also mark the beginning of her reputation as a queen who could sway even the most powerful men in Rome. The world after Caesar. The assassination of Julius Caesar in 44 BCE left Rome divided and Egypt vulnerable. Cleopatra, now the mother of Caesar's child, Caesarion, was determined to protect her throne and her son's future. She knew that the struggle for power among Caesar's successors would shape the fate of the Mediterranean world. It was during this turbulent period that Mark Antony, one of Caesar's most loyal generals and a key figure in Rome's ruling triumvirate, turned his eyes toward Egypt. Antony was no ordinary Roman leader. He possessed a larger-than-life personality, brave, passionate, and sometimes reckless. His military victories and personal charm had earned him respect, but his rivalry with Octavian, Caesar's adopted son, was growing fiercer by the day. Antony's decision to summon Cleopatra to meet him in Tarsus in 41 BCE was both political and personal. He needed the wealth and resources of Egypt to fund his campaigns, but he also could not resist the allure of the woman whose beauty and intelligence had become legend. The legendary meeting in Tarsus. When Cleopatra received Antony's summons to meet him in the city of Tarsus, she understood that this encounter would shape not only her own future, but also the destiny of Egypt. She did not approach the meeting as a supplicant. Instead, she planned an entrance that would leave Antony, and all of Rome, utterly captivated. Cleopatra's barge sailed up the Cydnus River like a vision from myth. Its stern was covered in gold, the sails billowed with royal purple, and the oars dipped in rhythm, silver-tipped and glistening under the sun. The air was filled with the perfume of incense and flowers, and musicians played soft melodies that drifted across the water. Cleopatra herself reclined on a golden throne, dressed as the goddess Isis, a living embodiment of Egypt's divine power and beauty. When Antony first laid eyes on her, he was struck not only by her elegance, but by her confidence. Unlike the Roman women he had known, Cleopatra was a queen in every sense, brilliant, commanding, and unafraid to meet his gaze. She spoke with intelligence and wit, holding her own in conversations about politics, trade, and philosophy. Antony, known for his boldness, found himself both enchanted and challenged. Their first meeting was followed by a series of lavish feasts and private discussions, during which Cleopatra revealed her true intentions. She sought not just a political alliance, but a partner powerful enough to secure Egypt's independence amidst the growing dominance of Rome. Antony, in turn, saw in Cleopatra both a source of immense wealth and a woman who could match his passion and ambition. A bond of love and power. What began as a calculated meeting soon transformed into something deeper. Antony found himself captivated not merely by Cleopatra's beauty, but by her intellect and her ability to command attention like no one he had ever met. Cleopatra, too, saw in Antony more than a Roman general. She saw a man with the charisma and strength to stand beside her as an equal. Their romance bloomed against a backdrop of political intrigue and ambition. Cleopatra hosted banquets that dazzled Antony with their luxury, tables filled with delicacies from across the empire, rare wines flowing freely, and entertainment that reflected the opulence of Alexandria's royal court. Yet beyond the splendor, there was a genuine connection. They shared moments of humor, vulnerability, and mutual respect. For Antony, Cleopatra became not just an ally, but a symbol of everything he desired: freedom from the rigid politics of Rome and the allure of a kingdom that lived in harmony with art, culture, and beauty. For Cleopatra, Antony represented both love and protection, a partner strong enough to shield Egypt from Roman domination. Return to Alexandria. After their dazzling days in Tarsus, Antony followed Cleopatra to Alexandria, a city that embodied the grandeur and sophistication of her reign. Nestled along the Mediterranean coast, Alexandria was a center of learning, culture, and trade, its great library and lighthouse standing as symbols of knowledge and power. Here, Antony left behind the rigid protocols of Rome and embraced a life that felt both liberating and intoxicating. Cleopatra spared no effort to enchant him further. She arranged grand processions through the city streets, with crowds cheering for the Roman general who now stood beside their queen. Banquets grew ever more extravagant. Historians speak of Cleopatra dissolving a pearl in vinegar to impress Antony with the sheer wealth of Egypt. Yet their connection was not built on luxury alone. Late into the night, they would speak of strategy, literature, and the future of their children. Antony, who had long been torn between politics and personal desire, began to see Alexandria as a refuge from the relentless struggles of Rome. With Cleopatra, he could be both a warrior and a lover, free from the watchful eyes of Octavian and the Roman Senate. But such a life of indulgence and defiance would not go unnoticed. The outcry in Rome. Back in Rome, Antony's relationship with Cleopatra caused shock and outrage. Many Roman senators viewed his actions as a betrayal of Roman values. His public displays of affection for the Egyptian queen and his apparent neglect of his Roman duties fueled Octavian's propaganda. Octavian, Caesar's adopted son and Antony's rival, painted Cleopatra as a dangerous temptress who sought to corrupt Rome with foreign luxury and seduce one of its greatest generals into becoming her pawn. The political consequences were immediate. While Antony still maintained alliances in Rome, his loyalty was now questioned, and his position in the triumvirate grew strained. The Senate watched with suspicion as Antony sent gifts of land and titles to Cleopatra and their children. Every gesture, every rumor of their life together was magnified into a scandal meant to weaken him. Despite the mounting political tension, Antony's bond with Cleopatra only grew stronger. For him, she was not a distraction, but a partner in his vision of power, a vision that could rival Octavian's claim to Rome itself. the union of East and West. Antony and Cleopatra's relationship deepened not only in passion, but in political significance. Their union symbolized a rare fusion of East and West, a powerful alliance that challenged Rome's traditional dominance. Cleopatra bore Antony 3 children, twins Alexander Helios and Cleopatra Selene, and later a son named Ptolemy Philadelphus. These children were more than heirs. They represented the merging of two great worlds and the hope for a new dynasty that might bridge the Mediterranean's greatest powers. Antony publicly acknowledged his children with Cleopatra, giving them titles and lands, a bold move that enraged many in Rome. To him, they were the future, symbols of a grand vision where Egypt's wealth and culture would flow alongside Roman military might. Cleopatra, ever the astute queen, saw in Antony's acceptance of their family a chance to solidify her dynasty's power and safeguard Egypt's independence. Together, Antony and Cleopatra imagined a reign that would balance Rome's legacy with Egypt's splendor, creating a kingdom unlike any other. Their court in Alexandria became a center of power and intrigue, attracting allies, poets, and diplomats alike. The grandeur of their life was both a celebration of their love and a statement to the world. They were a force to be reckoned with. The road to war. Yet this dream was destined to face its greatest challenge. Octavian, growing ever more powerful in Rome, saw Antony's alliance with Cleopatra as a direct threat to his own ambitions. The rivalry between the two men escalated into a struggle for control over the Roman world. Octavian used Antony's association with Cleopatra to rally the Senate and Roman people against him, portraying Antony as a traitor who had been seduced and corrupted by an exotic queen. The political battle quickly turned into a military confrontation. Despite Antony's attempts to maintain his influence in Rome and protect his Egyptian ally, the tension between the two camps boiled over. Their forces met at the decisive Battle of Actium in 31 BCE, a naval clash that would determine the fate of empires. The Battle of Actium. The Battle of Actium, fought on September 2nd, 31 BCE, was the pivotal moment that would seal the fate of Antony and Cleopatra and change the course of history. Off the western coast of Greece, near the promontory of Actium, the combined fleets of Mark Antony and Cleopatra faced the forces of Octavian, commanded by his trusted general Agrippa. Antony's fleet, though powerful and numerically large, was burdened by the presence of Cleopatra's ships, which were built for luxury and show rather than speed and maneuverability. The battle was tense and brutal. Octavian's forces, disciplined and strategically sharp, gradually gained the upper hand. Amid the chaos, Cleopatra made a sudden decision. She ordered her fleet to retreat, sailing away from the battlefield toward Egypt. Antony, torn between duty and love, followed her. This retreat was seen by many as a betrayal by his own troops, who felt abandoned and demoralized. The defeat at Actium was devastating. Antony and Cleopatra lost their grip on power as Octavian's forces took control over Rome and its territories. The dream of a shared reign over East and West began to crumble. The fall and final days. Following the loss at Actium, Antony and Cleopatra returned to Egypt, where they faced the reality of their collapsing empire. Octavian's forces rapidly advanced, conquering cities and eroding their support. Despite offers of clemency and a chance to live, Antony and Cleopatra chose a path of tragic defiance. Antony, hearing false news that Cleopatra had died, attempted to take his own life. Though he survived briefly, his death was imminent. Cleopatra, left alone, prepared for her final act with dignity and resolve. Determined not to be paraded as a captive in Rome, she chose death over humiliation. The exact manner of her death remains a mystery, but legend tells of a venomous asp, the Egyptian cobra, biting her, a symbol of her eternal connection to Egypt's ancient gods. Their deaths marked the end of an era. Egypt became a Roman province, and Octavian rose as Augustus, the first emperor of Rome, beginning a new chapter in history. Legacy of an epic love. The story of Antony and Cleopatra is more than a tale of romance. It is a timeless saga of power, passion, ambition, and tragedy. Their love reshaped empires and altered the course of history, capturing the imagination of generations to come. Though their reign ended in defeat and death, Antony and Cleopatra remained symbols of defiance against fate and convention. They dared to challenge the might of Rome and the strict boundaries of politics, with a union fueled by genuine affection and shared vision. Their story reminds us that love can be a force as powerful as armies, and that the human heart often beats strongest amid the greatest storms. In art, literature, and theater, their names endure, echoes of a love so intense that it inspired Shakespeare, poets, painters, and countless storytellers. The ruins of Alexandria and the memory of a queen who ruled with both intellect and passion continue to captivate us. Ultimately, Antony and Cleopatra's legacy lies in the blend of history and myth they created, a story of two extraordinary people whose love became eternal, transcending time, and reminding us of the beauty and tragedy intertwined in the human experience. Thank you for staying with us until the very end of this unforgettable journey. Antony and Cleopatra taught us that even the greatest power cannot defeat true love, and that sometimes love itself becomes the greatest tragedy of all. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and share your thoughts. And remember, history is full of stories like this, powerful, emotional, and deeply human. See you in the next story.